Call July 19th common council
Recording
meeting
in
to order. Madam
progress.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Hofer.
Here.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Here.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Here.
Alderwoman Hanneman is not present. Alderman Mike Barber is not present. Alderman Nelson.
Present.
We have a quorum. Please rise and join the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, just a reminder, this is Heath's last week with us, so if you get an opportunity, please go down and wish him well. He wants that. Don't you, Heath? Okay.
I think Heath cares.
Sure he does. Anyway. Okay, first item, and it's all, First District Alderman is going to lead us in happy birthday to Glenn Morrow for his 23rd birthday. Yeah.
Oh, I have a voice that's good for cooling soup. That's about it.
All right, we'll wish you a happy birthday, Glenn.
Yes, Glenn, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
That's a
Class
new one on me.
86er.
Okay, first item on the agenda is citizens' comment period. Any citizen wishing to speak, please rise, come forward, and give us your name and address. Tell us what you want to tell us. Sir, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Pelkey. I live at 9320 West Grandview Court in Franklin, of course. What else did you want to know? No license plate number, no date of birth. All right, so I am here today because on March 28th, about 4 months ago almost, I sent a letter to the council about the process that we went through to hire our current assessor. That process involved a recommendation to the council to hire Accurate Appraisal with no reservations. It was a rather glowing review. But I know that this company has had a checkered past. And in my letter, I gave examples of some of those problems. I don't know if there's 2 owners or 3 owners of this company, but 2 of the owners have had their licenses, well, they go through a process. The DOR twists their arm and then says, you know, if you don't give up your license, we're going to bring charges in front of the Secretary of Revenue, so just give up your license instead of spending a lot of attorney money to defend yourself. That's kind of how it works. In practice, it's supposed to be you go before the Secretary of Revenue with a request to revoke the certification, but that never happens. So anyway, their arms were twisted and they gave up their certification. Jim Danielson gave it up April last year, and Lee DeGroot lost it many years prior to that. So anyway, a lot of problems at this company. And yet when the council was asked to approve this contract, they were not given any of this information. So I discussed this with the administration, and it was very clear to me that the administration was unwilling and unprepared to deal with this. So that's why I wrote a letter to the council. Administration doesn't want to say anything, do anything, so it went to the council. But it's now been almost 4 months, and the council I've not heard anything. So I just came today to say that, you know, this is a pretty serious matter, and there are a lot of facts which you may or may not know, and that is the point of having a hearing to learn the facts that you weren't given, to determine how do we move forward. Maybe we can move forward with this company with proper oversight. That all has to be determined. Somebody has to figure this out. How are we going to make sure that we don't have the same problems that the city of Lake Geneva had when Jim Danielson lost his license after doing that work for 20-some years? So anyway, I hope that some point soon I will get a response to my letter and it won't just be shredded. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Rivera.
Hello, good evening all. Congratulations, Heath. You can now grow your hair out so you don't have to worry about looking like me and being assaulted by the mayor. Okay, Marcelino Rivera, 5536 West Allwood Drive. Candidate for, too early for that. Make you think though. Okay, I want to talk about something. I filed several code of conduct complaints, and what I've received in return was a letter from a law firm. Looks like they were hired by the city to act as an investigative officer. So I guess I'd like to just have some of this stuff confirmed. Secondly, who is this firm? And then follow up to that would be, is this the same firm that's always employed to investigate code of conduct complaints? And what's their hourly rate? What is this costing a city to have citizens file complaints against city officials, which is absolutely their right to do? What does it cost the city? And how is it that citizens have to pay for these attorney fees to be investigated? It's just kind of wasteful spending, if you ask me. I followed the appropriate procedure. And for step 1 of the complaint procedure, it reads investigation. If the investigation is complete, it will be investigated by the city through its representative, which may be the city's risk provider, outside counsel, or other appropriate party acting as investigative officer. So it looks like that's what's happened here. My complaint was deemed complete when it was accepted. From the Code of Conduct, Section 8, it says, if a complaint filing is determined to be complete by the city clerk shall forward the matter to the mayor or the mayor's designee. If the complaint filing is determined incomplete, the city clerk shall notify the complainant of the deficiency. So I was notified of a deficiency and I rectified that. So now that it was accepted, again, I assume that my complaint is complete, which I don't know why it didn't move on to the next step of the process. Instead, I get a letter from an attorney questioning the complaint and the validity of it. So step 2 of the complaint process is failure to comply. An actual step in the process is called failure to comply. All city officials, whether elected and appointed, are required to cooperate with any such investigations. Failure to cooperate in an investigation or making false statements could subject the official to sanctions or removal from office position. That leads me to my next question about how many unfulfilled open records requests are out there pending. I know I have open records requests that has not been fulfilled. It was promised to be delivered to me on 4/16, and that was records pertaining to this complaint here. So now that an attorney has been hired to look into this and investigate this matter, are you going to provide the full record of and full transcripts of open records to the attorney so that they can now have this and it can be made public to everyone? Is that going to take? Is that going to be a factor to used in consideration of this outcome? The process then goes on to recommendations and council actions. So regardless of the complaint, which may or may not include one or more of council members, the council action is decided by their own peers, some of which may have been appointed and be friends with. Now, this letter, it says a lot about these comments that were made that I complained about were personal comments and private comments. If that's the case, why is the city hiring attorney to defend these people from these matters? If it was a private and personal conversation, then it should be the onus on the person that's being complained about to cover legal charges and legal costs. So at the conclusion of the investigation, this whole thing is going to be determined by possibly people that are implicated or involved or friends or got some kind of reward and got appointed to a board possibly. So I'm just going to end it here. In conclusion, This code of conduct seems to be more about holding the elected officials under the thumb of the mayor than its stated purpose of upholding, promoting, and demanding the highest standards of ethics from its elected and appointed officials. It should be a relatively simple matter to have a conversation with these individuals, telling them to correct their behavior. This is something that would happen in any school, any business. You know, I've been to many meetings where you, Mr. Mayor, have claimed that this city is a business. And if you have a business that has people that are acting out of alignment with the code of conduct, how is it that you can stand up for them and defend them and empower them? And how is it that you can use another citizen's taxpayer dollars to defend them? This is something that, you know, if I have kids at the high school, if my kids came home and told me about something, I would expect that the school would do something, not refer it to an attorney to have my parental concerns for my child dismissed. It should be a relatively simple matter, but it's not. I've never seen such a level of abuse and harassing comments from any employee by any business online. So it's time you start thinking and acting with much more decency and a lot more financial intelligence than the runaway train that you've conducted for so long. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing no one else rise, I will close the citizens' comment period. We move on to approval of the regular meeting minutes of the Common Council meeting of July 5th. Any addition, there is an amended version at your desk. Any additional changes or corrections? Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Alderman Holfer. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have no hearings. Organizational business, mayoral appointment of Judith Williams Clackey, District 5 to the Library Board, 3-year term.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Wilhelm and Nelson. All those, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Hofer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Aye.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Motion carries 4 ayes, no noes, no absent, 2 absent, no abstentions. G1 is a request for change in the job description of patrol officers as did appear before the Personnel Committee.
Good evening. So the hiring situation for police officers is, I believe, gotten to a critical stage. The attracting of qualified applicants, police officer, has dwindled in the last a number of years, to the point the last couple of years has been critical. We currently have 4 vacancies, and we expect a couple more vacancies coming up. And right now we have basically no viable candidates. Last month we put a national news magazine advertisement for hiring. We got 0 applicants from that, kind of telling. So we're looking at some different strategies to attract more applicants. We're doing a couple things, but one thing I'm asking for tonight is to change our job description for police officers, which would change the requirement for applicants. Instead of having 60 college credits at the time of application, is to give them 5 years to get those 60 credits. That actually is the requirement from the state Training and Standards Bureau to have applicants, police officers, to have 5 years to get their 60 credits. We've always had a higher standard, required that to be present at the time of hire, but I believe that it'll open up our applicant pool if we go to the state standard and give them 5 years to get their 60 college credits.
Questions from the council? Is there a motion regarding this matter?
Question.
Alderman Wilhelm.
This question is for the chief. On page 13, it says they have to have a thorough knowledge of modern law enforcement principles, procedures, techniques, and equipment. How do they obtain that in advance?
Well, they're gonna need that for they're gonna get that in the police academy. So
Okay, so they will have Summer Police Academy because
yeah, so this is going to be targeting people without any prior experience. mostly. I mean, there are some people, matter of fact, there was a person who tried to apply that quite didn't make it, that is a law enforcement officer for another agency that also gives them the 5 years, but that's kind of a rare event. This is really going to apply to people without any prior law enforcement experience. And then if we accept them as a applicant, we would sponsor them in the academy.
Okay. Thank you.
I would move to approve the description page.
For a second,
Second.
Alderman Nelson? Motion? Judge? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Motion carried. G2 is a presentation of the annual comprehensive financial report for the city. Compliment Peggy and her staff on the rewrite. This is no insignificant task, and I remind the council members, except for the new one, there's a lot of data in here, a lot of good stuff in the back too in the statistical section that'll help you with your constituent services. So, Madam Director.
Thanks, Mayor. So I have with me tonight Shannon Small from Clifton Larson Allen. That's the audit firm that the city has hired to complete this audit. Independent auditors come in and review the city's books. It's management's responsibility, of course, to make sure these financial statements are in order. It's the auditor's job to reasonably do some tests, and Shannon's going to talk about all of that. But as the mayor mentioned, we were down on staffing, so I really want to send out a shout out to our finance department because everybody pitched in a lot to get this done, and our new finance director as well. She's not able to be here tonight because she's out of the office, but this was really a team effort, and we're really proud of the results that we have. And turn it over to Shannon so she can walk us through.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for having me today. I appreciate you letting me stop by and give you a quick overview of the work. Is that better? Yeah. All right. All right. Thank you so much. I do want to just highlight something you mentioned. There's a lot of really great information in that report. It's multiple pages long, and I know that's putting it lightly. The only couple of pages in that report that are ours as the auditor are the opinion pages that you'll see towards the beginning. The rest is all of management's hard work, so we do appreciate their efforts in that front. I'll just cut right to the chase with our most exciting news. You'll see in that opinion that we are issuing an unmodified opinion, what's commonly known as a clean opinion in the industry. That's the highest level of assurance we can provide you as your auditors that the financial statements are free of material misstatement and presented in accordance with GAAP. So that's kind of the gold star of audit opinions. So we're pleased to be able to present that to you. The other couple of items I did want to highlight, and you'll have more details, and there's a letter that accompanies it that goes into more details of the results of the financial audit. I'm not going to go into those in depth, but the one I do want you guys to note is the lack of audit adjustments that we're reporting. That indicates to you the information you're receiving throughout the year is consistent with the information that's presented in this annual report. So those are kind of the highlights of the results of the audit. That comes from the time that we spend with your team working through understanding internal controls. We don't offer an opinion on those, but we do use those to help design our audit procedures, getting an understanding of the controls, procedures, and processes, and then testing the balances within the financial statements. We do follow a risk-based approach, so we focus on your largest accounts balances, most significant transactions throughout the process, doing some sampling, selecting, and testing those transactions, but not every item in there. So that kind of takes us through a very high level of the audit. Please feel free to stop me if you have any questions on the process. I know you guys get good financial information from your management team throughout the year, but I did want to take just a couple of minutes and highlight a few key points at this year end. In front of you is a single sheet of paper, just grabs a few of those key numbers, lifts them out so we can talk about them. Up at the beginning is just that highlight of the opinion, and down at the bottom references a governance communication. That's the additional details you can read and let us know if you have any questions on. I did highlight through revenues, expenses, and then your other sources, basically the ins and outs of your financial statements. All comes down to the net position. That's kind of what's left at the end and what's available for use. Highlighting your largest funds, your general fund, your debt service, TIF, and then all of the other ones, and then as well as your water and sewer. So I'm going to start kind of at the general fund, work my way down, just a couple of key points as we work through, highlighting mostly that change in fund balance. That's really the end result of your activities for the year. So you'll see the general fund does have a positive change in net position this year, a change in fund balance. The budget did have a budgeted use of fund balance of about $3.2 million. The difference is primarily related to the contingency reserve that was not needed of $2.5 million. The remaining difference is really a result of some vacancies that were available and other various cost savings. No significant items to highlight there, but just to pointing out that you do have about that $6 million or $600,000 increase, leaving you with a positive fund balance of a little under $10 million that's available for future use, cash flow needs, and a healthy fund balance there.
Shannon, excuse the interruption, please. For the Common Council, for those, Kristen, for you being here as long as you and I have together, you've heard me comment often when this report comes out about how we need to make some changes in how we budget so that the year-end change in fund balance isn't millions of dollars like it's been in the past. That shows that we either are not budgeting accurately or, well, that's not fair. It shows that there's some room to tighten the belt, and this shows that we in fact have accomplished that. I think a $600,000 fund balance addition is reasonable. So thanks to you all and previous councils, I think we're in a good place now. Thank you, Shannon.
So like I said, that takes you down to that about 10 million fund balance. That's really what's available in working capital, and keeping in mind that gives you a healthy fund balance to account for the cyclical nature of your revenues and expenditures. So moving into the debt service fund, this has a small change in net position or fund balance at the end of the year. That's to be expected. You levy for what you plan to use that debt service for, paying off debt, principal and interest on debts. Your TIF district does have an increase this year. Kind of a note as you're looking at that, TIF 3 is scheduled for closing in 2022 and TIF 4 in 2023 projected. So the part of that increase this year is proceeds from borrowing near the end of the year. About $3.5 million of proceeds were borrowed at the very end of the year, so they're being spent in the next year. Kind of that planned nature of your borrowings. You'll see an up and down motion in there. As you borrow, the funds go up, the fund balance goes up, and as you spend those down according to plan, they'll decrease back down. Your non-major governmental funds, this includes your library, your solid waste, and several of your capital project funds. Again, similar to that tax increment financing or TIF districts, you'll see an increase this year related to some borrowing near the end of the year as planned and to be used down as you go forward. Particularly those capital project funds will follow that cyclical nature of your borrowing and project costs. As we move into the water and sewer utilities, the water utility had about a $700,000 increase, with the sewer utility having about a $600,000 decrease. Well, they don't offset each other because they are separate utilities. It's just interesting to note that they're very similar this year, going opposite directions. So just wanted to point out a couple of those, and I lost my place here. I apologize. Thank you. Yep, non-governmental. Nope, the water and sewer utilities. Just looking at my notes to make sure I didn't miss any key points I wanted to highlight to you guys. So, nope, that takes us through the sewer and water utilities. Still leaving at the end of the year, both of those have about the water utility has 55 million fund balance, and the sewer utility has about 68 million. But keeping in mind, the largest portion of that is the pipes in the ground in your water treatment plant. So what's left in those funds for you to be able to plan for capital projects, cash flowing, is about 3.8 million in the water utility and 1.8 million in the sewer utility. So when you're looking through those statements, those large numbers in the fund balance, a good portion of those is that investment in those capital, the pipes in the ground and the sewer treatment and water treatment plant and such. So I will stop there and let you, let's see if you have any questions that I can answer for you, either on the audit process or the numbers that I've highlighted for you this evening.
Questions? Alderman Wilhelm? Did you push your button? Okay.
I don't have too many questions on the financial aspect. I have some procedural questions. But on the water utility, our revenue and our expenditures, or I meant the sewer utility, our revenue and our expenditures are quite higher. So I'm hoping we can figure out what we're going to do with that.
So just one highlight on the sewer utility, actually, the budget showed it being decreased, the fund balance being decreased by another 350,000. So we actually ended the year better than we thought we would in
Okay.
that. And utilities hitting zero or close to zero with reserves on hand is really not outrageous. Keep in mind, we do have the lift station going right now, which is some rate changes we just did in the middle of 2021, which are now full effect in 2022. And then we have a water tower that's going to be proceeding, and this council will see that water rate increase due to that water tower and that extra borrowing coming up soon. So we are keeping an eye on those.
Okay. The procedural questions are, I know that an unaudited report was due by May 15th. Did we make that deadline? Are we going to get penalties for late?
So that nothing's due by May 15th. We have a state report due through the Department of Revenue. It's
Right.
called a Form C. We did have our audit fieldwork happened in April, so I was able to file that on time. I did a
Okay.
recon to the penny of where we were at with the audit, so that was filed on
So-
time. We do have what's called a Tax 16 letter due from the auditors on July 31st. That's really the hard deadline for the
Right.
state report, and any adjustments can be worked through at that point. Just talking to the partner in charge of our audit yesterday, and we were just going to go through both of us separately and make sure we
So no
were
fees
clean on
and
that.
fees?
No,
Good.
no.
And then, so do we have to file an amended MFR?
As of right now, I don't have the answer. I'm going to say I'm thinking no, because I had all of our reporting changes and everything in by the time we had the report due on, like I said, I balanced to the penny on all of the state reporting.
And then the other question I have, and we had talked about this before, we have on page 29, we have the ordinance for the 55-1, and it's a chart. And I was not able to find when we actually changed the 55-1 chart. I couldn't find a motion, I know that we passed the Tourism Commission, which would have kicked this in, and that happened in December 5th, Committee of the Whole, December 6th, Common Council 2016. And, but beyond that, so I just want to, can we just double check? And if we have not adopted this or approved this, just bring this chart in. And so we can make sure that's covered. And that's it. Thank you.
Alderman Nelson.
Also on page 29, if we're going to go over this org chart, I guess I wasn't sure why it was even in here. I mean, why would that be in here? Wondering.
It's one of the documents that goes in the annual comprehensive financial
It does?
report. Yep.
Okay.
Every year.
And on the bottom of it where it says Human Resources Coordinator, did we change it to Manager?
We will in 2022, yes.
Okay, but that wasn't okay, so I'm just wanting.
Yep.
Nothing else. Thank you.
Anybody else? Ms. Stino, any other comments on the CAFR?
Nothing for me.
Other than it's great information. Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Shannon.
I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. Is there a motion to receive and place on file? Nelson and Ed, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to move ahead a little bit because we've got people in the audience that really shouldn't have to sit through all of this. To item 6, a resolution authorizing acceptance of a conservation easement for 8973 West Lake Point Drive, Carly Blake and Jacob Mutter. Wilhelm and Eichmann. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, back to the regular order. Item G3, buffer yard easement for Boomtown LLC. It's a 2-lot certified survey, no, a 1-lot certified survey map, incorrectly titled. Mr. Eddy, you want to clear us up, please?
It should read lot 1 of the 2-lot certified survey map. This was the certified survey map that was created to separate the triangular piece south of Loomis Road from the rest of it. This landscape buffer yard easement is to be applied on the south border of West Loomis Road at the back end of Woodfield Court when the project is built.
I just saw the name of this court. There is a Woodfield Court in the city of Franklin.
All right, well, then we'll have to work with whoever is in charge of addressing to make sure that we get
Glenn,
that done for 911 purposes. That has to be changed.
this essentially is the ditch. Is that correct, Heath?
Yeah, there's a requirement for a landscape easement on the south side of the property adjacent to the highway, so that
The
whoever
motion to
gets
accept the
those,
resolution.
gets those units along the bottom there doesn't have to look at the back end of a ditch. They can look at the landscaping next to it, highway ditch.
Alderman Nelson, is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Wilhelm. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. G4 is a resolution authorizing certain officials to accept the conservation easement for Saputo cheese. Alderman Wilhelm.
Heath, I called you on this. We didn't get to catch up today, but I just had a question on page 206 and 205, which shows only a 30-foot conservation easement on the wetland. Typically, there's 50. So what was the reason for only the 30?
We only ultimately decided to limit it to just the wetland area and then the wetland buffer as opposed to going all the way out to the wetland setback. Saputo is not actually going to be doing anything in the wetland, anywhere in their wetland. So you theoretically go out 50 feet, but it's only technically authorized to go out to the wetland buffer boundary. We sometimes get them to agree to go 50 feet out, but in this case, it was, for their purposes, it wouldn't have made any difference for whatever they're going to do out there. They
So I
basically are
guess
staying
what you're saying, we typically have a 50-foot, but because they aren't going to be grading or putting anything in that initial 20 feet, you see that the impact to the wetland wouldn't be changed, and so you're recommending a 30 versus a 50. Does that pretty much sum it up?
That pretty much sums it up, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Jesse,
Is there a motion regarding this matter?
Jesse.
Motion is made by Alderman Eichmann. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Holford. Mr. City Attorney.
Just off my top of my head, I didn't look at the question or the issue, but the 20 feet is the setback, right?
20 feet's the additional setback, yeah.
Okay, but that's still on the property in some way, shape, or form if it's not in the conservation easement, so the property owners are all aware of it.
Yes.
And it does not have to be included in the conservation easement?
It's not required under the UDO.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion. Okay, motion carries.
Just that this is the first time I ever heard that the full 50 foot wasn't required. If you don't continue on with that policy, which took us a long time to get to that point, based on a lot of experts that 50 feet was the standard, you won't have any protection of keeping people from building swing sets and everything else that happens in these. So while I'm okay with this particular one, I would caution not putting in the full 50 feet in the future. Thank you.
Ultimately, the reason why we don't always include them is because wetland setbacks are allowed to be, you're allowed to mow them, you're allowed to do a lot of things in them. And so including them in the conservation easement provides an additional restriction on top of what's already allowed under the UDO. So that's why we typically, we always run into this problem every time we do one of these. We recommend generally 50 feet. We recommend generally that they put some kind of barrier out there so they don't start sticking structures in them. But it's complicated by the fact that the wetland setback's not treated the same as the pier buffer, which you're not allowed to do anything in. So we're trying to balance that with what they're actually entitled to be able to do, because the conservation easement is designed to be more restrictive than the UDO technically allows for. So it's something we're going to have to work our way through going forward.
Anybody else? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. G5 is certified survey map for fiduciary real estate, 9801 South 27th Street. Sorry.
.801 South 27th Street and 9605 South 29th Street, fiduciary real estate development, Inc. applicant.
Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Holfer. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We did G6. G7 appears in the packet, in your packet, as item 11. Which is the TID results. Madam Director.
So we reviewed this report in detail with the Finance Committee at their meeting on July 12th, and we will be doing some follow-up conversations with them. But just to kind of set the stage and tell you where we're at with TIDS right now, each year as of July 1st, we're required to file a report with the Department of Revenue. Those reports were filed on time and are attached in your packet. They're kind of interesting reports. There's a lot of guesswork that happens because a lot of the report is talking about future balances, et cetera. So what staff has been working on is basically a one-page analysis of each TID. You know, we only have TIDs 3 through 8, so there's not too many. But TID 3, just to give you a quick rundown, TID 3, Northwestern Mutual, was formed in 2005. It's closing, council-approved closure in early April. Department of Revenue was notified. Now that our audit is complete, we're going to go ahead and do that closeout audit. We are expecting funds to be on hand at the end that will be distributed to the taxing entity. It is closing, and we'll provide council, as soon as that audit is done, a full accounting of that TID, so you can see, you know, what funds are remaining, what the closure was. Closure is statutorily in 3 years. It's closing this year. And then there was just that one Department of Transportation invoice that we were confirming on the clear up, but we have not gotten any indication from the Department of Transportation that those would be owing. So we do expect that to be resolved. There is a debt payment that will withhold, again, in accordance with the law and the Department of Revenue standards. We expect the remainder funds coming back to the city to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000 on that TID. TID 4, Ascension Hospital, again, spending period ended in 2020, approximately the same time frame as TID 3. We do expect closure in 2023 based on current results. I will have the preliminary values for 2022 in just a couple days by TID, so we'll be able to talk about that in more detail. We did have some encumbrance in place on this one. This is the one where the underground work on the future Hickory was approved by council in 2020. Those construction projects are wrapping up. We are hoping by the end of this summer to have nothing outstanding, which goes along with the regulation. So again, you'll be hearing a lot more about TID 4 coming up in later this year and early next year. TID 5, Ballpark Commons, in progress. As everyone knows, COVID kind of threw a wrench in some of the plans, not as far along as they expected, but they did make very good progress in 2021. And I think you just heard from the developer a couple meetings ago that with their current plans and what they have going on, they're expecting to be basically out of land soon, which again is a good indication for the TID and for the values going forward. They do have a municipal revenue obligation, which is basically a bond that we pledge to them, but we will not be expecting to pay that anytime soon, as they have a ways to go to catch up on the value. However, just please note that there is interest accruing on that at quite a good clip based on the terms of the agreement. So something we'll be watching. TID number 6, fair development. We did, in 2021, pay approximately $9 million to the developer for the infrastructure improvements. We do have a couple guarantees that shortfall payments are being required on. That's in progress. The development, Ryan Meadows, the residential, I believe there's 79 homes planned, 39 are in progress as of, in regard to building permits. They do have a condo area in progress, and then the RISE development that we all talked about over the last couple of meetings. We do expect to hear more on that soon, as a potential amendment to the TID agreement is coming on that. We do have an MRO that'll be executed on that as well soon. The next one, Velo Village, I think everybody's up to speed on Velo Village. We did do an amendment to their development agreement in early March. Mandel, the developer, original developer, did sell Velo Village and made a contingent interest payment to the city. Those, of course, are restricted funds, and they will be monitored, and staff will be talking to council about potential uses of that money. But basically, all of the debt that was outstanding that was borrowed to Mandel, which was $3 million in a public borrow and $1.5 million in city fund borrow, that's all been paid back along with the $4 million. We are going to be working with our bond counsel to see if we can, because that debt's not callable, we're going to see if we can go ahead and transfer that to a different TID to get some use out of it, so we don't have to pay interest on for no good reason. The last one, TID 8. Sure.
Could you just give a little bit more discussion on the contingent interest payment made?
Sure.
Just,
Yep.
brief us up on what
So there was a clause in the development agreement that was titled contingent interest. So basically that was because the city was a sponsor of the project, i.e. had some borrowing outstanding to the developer, we basically had an interest in it. So that calculation needed to be done if the developer gained over a certain percent of, we call it IRR, rate of return. And that happened. So the project was very successful, leased faster than any Mandel project has ever leased before. That calculation, the raw calculation in the agreement was a certain amount that was not feasible. So the council then reviewed that and basically made an amendment with the developer so that $4 million could be made to the city over and above all of the paybacks of the bonds and any obligations on the part of the developers. So the city can now use that money in the TID as a donor to another TID. There's a list of things, but we had made a commitment to council that we would be working through that planning and come back to council for permission on that. And then the last one is TID number 8. We now call that Franklin Corporate Park. We do have one agreement in place, and the building is going up quite rapidly on the northwest corner of Hickory and Oakwood. We are working on some additional agreements. We hope to have more coming to the council soon, but when Shannon from CLA mentioned that 3.5 million for TIDs in the end of 2021, that was for Hickory Road, and we're trying to get that done this year as part of our development agreement, and we are in the planning stages for Elm Road. So that's a brief update on the TIDs. Again, there's going to be more to come. We're going to get council and finance the one-page status forms. It's just a really good snapshot for you to refer to at any point in time to look at the status of the TID.
That's good, thank you very much. Glenn, when is groundbreaking on Hickory? When are they going to start moving dirt? Oh, okay, then, thank you very much. Well underway. Okay, that answers your question. Okay, thank you very much. Now we move back in your packet. Oh, is there a motion to receive and place on file? So moved. Second. Hope for Nelson, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. G7, we move back to G7 in your packet, which is G8 in your agenda. And if everybody's confused like I am, we're in good shape. Page 265 on your agendas, on your packets. Wisconsin, the opioid crisis litigation settlement funds securitization payment option. This one will make your head hurt. Mr. City Attorney.
Well, my thought is that the current status is totally summarized within the council action sheet. the council's entirely aware of the class action litigation settlement, and the numbers to be estimated to be received by the city of Franklin are also set forth in the action sheet. And the whole reason this is here is because there is a financial group that became interested in determining whether or not to securitize the entirety of the funds and then allow for payment therefrom upfront instead of over the years, in this case, 18 years, and whether or not the municipality would be interested in that. And in this case, and this is the distributor settlement portion, which is separate from the Janssen settlement payments, which are still going to be paid over time through 2031, as stated in the action sheet. The city is estimated to receive over time $283,165, and the upfront payment agreement, current estimate, would reduce that by approximately $15,000 down to a lump sum upfront payment of $259,611. And so, as I stated, the financial group wants to know how many municipalities would be involved in this agreement. So it's not finalized, and any action by the council to move further with this, prepared a motion for the council, would ultimately result in a final draft agreement with all the numbers from the finance group, which will include all the other interested and participating municipalities. At that point in time, the common council, by any action here tonight, is not bound to enter into the agreement, could choose not to. What I've been informed by the attorneys that have been leading this process overall for the state, with the Texas attorneys who filed all the litigation stuff, that you would not be counted as part of the group if you chose not to move forward with this at this meeting.
My first thought when I read this was, what are the risks of having to pay the money back? And then I saw on page 2, which is 267, A1 risk and benefits, that they would analyze the potential risks first. Is that what part of their duty would be on the risk of if we'd have to end up paying it back at all? Or I'm not quite understanding that section.
Draft agreement with the understanding, so it was a speed read, that it's not final with all the other work ongoing per usual. And my understanding would be that with regard to risks, Texas attorneys, et cetera, have said the risk that's being saved is not by participating in this financial group securitization. It's securitization of the payments. The concern would be over 18 years,
That's what I
maybe
was
there's
thinking.
a bankruptcy or something akin
Right.
to that. And the
Right.
payments don't.
And it sounds
get
like
totally
part
made.
of their scope of service, they would do the risk and benefit analysis for us as part of this. To me, it sounds like a good thing to move forward with, but what was your opinion on that?
Well, the others who, an attorney, Christopher Smith in the office, who's been running the coordination of the Wisconsin area municipalities under the direction of the Texas attorneys, has said, obviously should move forward with this. This is a policy choice. It's not a recommendation from legal staff. Policy choice is, do you want the payment up front or do you want the payments over time?
I like the payment up front if it's a sure thing, rather than carrying it over 18 and making that risk. As long as there's no risk of having to pay it back if we get it up front for some unknown reason. And if they're going to do the risk analysis for us before we commit further, I would think we should move forward with it.
Madam Director of Administration.
So in doing a financial analysis on the agreement, basically the securitization would, I just ran some net present value numbers. So if we were going to accept 283,000 over 18 years versus the 259 up front, basically, if I would monetize or discount that 283,000, it would only be worth just under 200,000 today. So obviously, that 259 is a really good deal from a financial perspective. And, you know, the city can certainly, as these monies come in, they can only be used on certain things, but doesn't look like there's any restrictions on what the city can do, you know, invest it and different things like that. So we have set up a separate fund in our financial system for this, just because we know either way it's going to go on for many years and the spending is going to be very restricted, and we're going to want to make sure that our auditors know that. So financially speaking, if this was just a simple financial matter, the upfront payment would be favorable.
Procedure, settlement procedure.
So the motion by Alderman Wilhelm, or Mike wasn't on, was to move forward with the study for the annuitization is what I call it,
Monetization, there's a lot of words.
whatever. They keep the money and dole it out on a yearly basis, or we pay a discount for a,
And
One
I
time.
had said that let the city attorney continue on with it. It was in my motion. So.
Is there a second? Then Alderman Holfer,
I'll second it.
and then Alderman Holfer, and then the city attorney.
Have they determined who's going to monitor the spending and the mechanism of how that's reported?
He asked the question.
You.
I was making notes. I thought he was looking at the administrator. so
Looking
I
at the
thought he was
microphone.
asking for- What's the
Yeah,
question?
but she doesn't know. That's not an insult to her, that's just not her area. Have they figured out reporting requirements for the expenditures and that kind of thing yet for the settlement offer?
What do you mean reporting requirements?
Well, we're
Well,
gonna get
because the
280.
spending is limited as to what we can spend it on. So my question is, how is that monitored? And at some point in time, are they going to come back and say, now show me how you spent the money?
I don't believe that this is akin to limitations on what it is.
There are certain
That was a
things.
good
I
try.
haven't looked at that, no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they-
that was a while back. That
There's
we
a
talked about that.
rather substantial list of things you can use it on.
Well, that's
Very good.
already done. If that's
But
in the
what's the check
settlement
and
agreement.
balance? And it's not part of this agreement, but I understand, I've known him for years, as thinking we need to figure out what the risk is
If
of
it
coming
can be
back.
done.
Especially if we're getting the money in upfront.
Up front.
I want to have everything in place.
So we'll get back to you on that.
So I think the general answer is if there are requirements, whatever requirements come down on this, our auditors would be made aware of, and they're going to make sure that that happens. That would be our, I mean, of course, it's our responsibility, but just like a grant, they would make sure that we follow those regulations.
Thank you.
And just so you know, Alderman, the Director of Health and Social Services for us, she's got the entire booklet. So does the police chief, who's designated that, I'm sure. And so they're well aware of what's the requirements. Anyone else on this?
Just
And then city attorney.
the motion, I want to make sure that I used the proper wording because you used a little bit different wording than I did. So maybe the clerk could read back the motion and the city attorney could opine if that is the correct wording. It's kind of a
Alderwoman Wilhelm moved to move forward with the
PSA, PMA, securities.
PMA security study for the, and that's when, word securitization agreement, and let the city attorney continue.
That works for me.
There was a suggested motion. Anybody wants to bring that up?
Alderman Hopefer is the second of that motion.
Yeah.
Is
there
there,
a second
who has the
remain?
suggested
Yes.
motion?
The city attorney.
City attorney's got to
Well,
suggest
let's
it.
hear-
So let's let the city attorney
Yes.
speak, and then we can ask again.
Yes.
Mr. City Attorney.
If the council is interested, draft motion was a motion that the city of Franklin is interested in proceeding at this time with the process of finalization and review and entering into a securitization agreement for a single upfront payment of the distributor funds.
Mine was the short version. Yours is the long version. I'll make the I'll make the long version.
So are you withdrawing your motion?
No, I'm amending it to be the longer version by the city attorney.
Oh, okay, that's similar. You approve of the amendment?
I do.
Okay. On the motion as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G8 is an update on Franklin senior travel. You have in your packet, on the back side of the council action sheet, the report. G,
In the pack.
no, in the packet is G8.
A motion to accept and place on file.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. G9 in your packet, it's G10 on the agenda, is a resolution to amend Resolution 2022-7878 to approve changes to public trail easement and Pleasant View Reserve.
Make the motion, adopt a resolution. Amend resolution number 2022-7878 to approve changes to the public recreation trail easement for the Pleasant View
Page
Reserve
291.
subdivision as requested by VHPVR, LLC.
Hold on one second. Is there a second to that? Second. Oh, Nelson.
I needed the number.
G9 in the packet. Questions on the motion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G10 in the packet, G11 on the agenda, on page 311 in your packet. Authorize staff to send a letter of support for Friends of Weir Nature Center grant proposal.
Second.
Wilhelm and Eichmann. All, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G12, page 377 in the packet, G13. No,
Just normal.
it's back to normal now. I wondered why there was this blank section there. G12 in your packet, G12 in your heart, and G12 on the agenda. On page 337, consideration and updated City of Franklin Code of Conduct. Madam Director.
Thanks, Mayor. In your packet, I did include a council action sheet that was very specific. There were 3 suggested alternatives that I'm making for the code of conduct. Again, not because I want to or like them, it just for logic and making sense. The first one being on the beginning, section 1 purpose. It talked about the code working in conjunction with the Franklin Municipal Code as well as state statutes, and then administrative policies and procedures as indexed and available. The original recommendation was in the clerk's office. Talked to the clerk about it. They weren't kept in the clerk's office. If they're in the clerk's office, they're also not visible. So we thought putting them on the website might be a little bit more advisable. We do have them under resources on the website, and we do have a table of contents. So somebody doesn't have to scoot through to find them all, and they can search the keywords as well. But all of the administrative policies that are established are available on the website. So the first recommendation for change would be included in the website versus the clerk's office. The second one is in section 2 of the code. I'm on page 338. It talked about the elected and the the executive and the legislative. In the minutes, what the recommendation was on the night that it was last discussed, I believe that was on June 21st. The word branch was used. Alderman Nelson at the next meeting, because it was his recommendation, changed that to body. So basically it says the the legislative body and the executive body. I think that made sense for a couple of reasons. The first one being that branch is not typically used in local government setting. As well, the word body and legislative body are used throughout these documents. So it seemed to make sense. That's the second recommendation. The third change is under section 3, and I am now on page. Yeah, not that change. Yes, 341. Yes.
Did I miss the second change in section 2?
So there's a lot of changes. There's many more than I'm going through right now, but all of the other changes are exactly word for word what was recommended at the June 21st meeting. Both the clerk and I went through the minutes and through everything multiple times to make sure those were the same. Those are exactly the same, and those are noted in here. The ones that were the 3 that Alderman Nelson recommended, the 3 that I spoke to him about last week before the packet went out, are just these 3 exceptions that I'm mentioning.
Well,
So that one was not an exception to what was directed by the council.
I had some questions when I was viewing this in detail over the weekend and did some double checks with the municipal code, et cetera, and it's the end of section 2B where it said, with regard to point of personal privilege, which if ruled upon by the parliamentarian as in order, the member shall be granted 5 minutes to speak on the subject. And my thought was, okay, parliamentarian is not the presiding officer. And check Roberts, and it's not called a point of personal privilege. It's raise a question of privilege. That's how it starts. But in Roberts, it's the chair who makes the decision on raising a question of privilege. So I thought, okay, check the municipal code. I think there might be something in there that allows for changes to Robert's rules. And what I found was simple 19-6, deliberations of the council shall be conducted in accordance with the parliamentary rules and Robert's Rules of Order revised, incorporated herein by reference. And that's all I found other than one other site, I think for the Tourism Commission with regard to Roberts in the municipal code. So I thought, okay, this is varying from the municipal code. It'll take a municipal code amendment if you leave that in. And then I thought, well, chair makes decisions. Parliamentarian is a consultant, if you will, or an advisor selected by the governmental body. So I did come up with a potential draft on it in lieu of, or a redraft in lieu of, okay, if you adopt that, then you should amend the municipal code, and that would have to be brought back. And my thought was, instead of which, if ruled upon by the parliamentarian as in order, the member shall be granted the point of privilege, etc. The rewrite was, offended official should raise a question of privilege with a request and for information, which if ruled upon by the chair, following advice from the parliamentarian, if present, as in order, the member shall be granted the privilege and shall be allowed up to 5 minutes to address the concern. And the reason I put parliamentarian, if present, is because this is the code for all boards and commissions, not just the common council, et cetera. So anyway, I just thought I'd bring it up at the meeting because it's not compliance with the municipal.
I don't know who did it, I think Kristen did, and then Alderman Holfer.
Okay, well, in reference to the item the city attorney just discussed, I understand his point. I'm not, it wouldn't be my preference, and I think I made this, but he does make some valid points. He did insert the boards and commissions as I tried to do the first time around, so that part is better, and I certainly don't want to have to amend Robert's rules and do all that, so I would accept that as the motion to replace the section that's presented there in red.
Okay, so let's do this right. Mr. City Attorney, can you read your proposed change?
The last sentence of the redraft of the code in the Common Council meeting agenda packet, section 2B, last sentence, amend that to read, if that is not successful, comma, the offended official should raise a question of privilege, comma, with a request, comma, and for information, comma, which if ruled upon by the chair, comma, following advice from the parliamentarian, comma, if present, comma, as in order, comma, the member shall be granted the privilege and shall be allowed up to 5 minutes to address the concern.
Is there a motion?
I made that motion already.
Is there a second? Second by Alderman Nelson. On that motion, question, Alderman Hofer.
So in our instance, who serves as parliamentarian? And I'm not clear what happens if there is no parliamentarian, because it says the chair makes the decision if he's advised by he's advised by the parliamentarian if they're there. So in absence of a parliamentarian, the chair still has the authority to move. I just want to be clear on that.
Correct, and just a, parliamentarian. Just a point with regard to the privilege question. Further rules and explanation in Roberts in section 19:7 notes in part, questions of personal privilege, dash, which seldom arise in ordinary society, and even more rarely justify interruption of pending business, dash, may relate, for example, to an incorrect record of a member's participation in a meeting contained in minutes approved on his absence, or to changes circulated against a member's character. That's what those are. Robert says it's very rare.
Did we vote? Okay, so can we vote, and then I'd like to have the floor.
All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Will.
Okay. Well, the Director of Administration made her points on the three code items that she lists here. A lot of this document has to do with the council not acting on its own. And there's language about shall be clear, you're not part of the body, that you're not acting on behalf of the council. And so with that thought, one of the sentences on the council action sheet states, the Common Council directed that the red line version of both documents be brought to the council for consideration. There was no motion by the Common Council giving that direction. So I just want to point that out, that no one alderman could have done that. And while Alderman Nelson had asked for some corrections on a minute issue, and then there was a statement, well, we'll bring it back when we do the whole thing. So that was no direction by the Common Council for that. So that's not accurate. And then on the next paragraph, it says specifically there are suggested changes to 3 of Alderman Nelson's original changes. These items were discussed with him to confirm that it was acceptable to make the alternative suggestions, and he agreed. Once the motion is voted upon, it becomes a motion of the body. So it would be inappropriate for Alderman Nelson, although I appreciate he had the discussion, to agree to any changes of a motion of the body. And it would also, the fact that I made 2 of the motions, I was not consulted on this. So given the fact that I made 2 of the motions and seconded the middle one, I have some comments to what was given here. On the first one, the Code of Conduct, Section 1, the motion was to include the administrative policies and procedures indexed and available in the clerk's office. I made sure that I gave a copy of the clerk's office that all of those policies and procedures, and it was date stamped. But I have no problem with the changes suggested by the Director of Administration for it to be on the internet and index that is available on the website. However, I do believe that these policies should be available in both places. So my suggested motion for that would be similar to what the Director of Administration says, available, index is available on the city website, but then I would like the policies to be also available in the clerk's office as the keeper of the records. So that would be my suggestion for that one.
Just would like to clarify that you would like to add at the end of that sentence, and administrative policies and procedures as indexed and available on the city's website, comma, and also available in the city clerk's office.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Alderman Hofer.
Early on in your statement, you identified wording that you said was inaccurate. You did not ask for a change to the record. Are you asking to have that officially changed in the record? Or were you just identifying it?
Well, you're to address it to the chair, but Madam Alderman Wilhelm.
Well, that is a good point. I guess I more pointed out that I don't want us to see a practice of statements that say that we made a direction when no motion was present. So I'm more calling it to the attention so it's accurately done in the future. If you believe it would be more appropriate, I would certainly
I was
do
just
that.
asking,
I
I'm
don't
just
know.
asking the question so we have a final answer and can
Okay.
move forward.
I don't really know how to correct a council action sheet, so I didn't have a suggestion. So I was just wanted to point it out that was it. City attorney has his hand up. Maybe he can assist us.
Madam Director of Administration and City Attorney.
I just want to make a couple comments. Part of the discussion that we had the night of June 21st, the council did indeed ask me to bring it back. So if I use the word directed instead of asked, I apologize, but that's what the council asked for. Secondly, the reason Alderman Wilhelm wasn't contacted is because I'm still waiting for her to contact me with all of her changes that she was going to get me within 1 to 2 days. I thought she was busy, otherwise I would have contacted her, which is why I defaulted to Alderman Nelson. So I apologize for that, but I didn't get a response to this day.
Oh, well,
Hopefully just for simplicity, instead of questioning and debating on the subject, if there are any other individual amendments, when those have all gone through and the entire document is there before you, someone could make a motion and to approve the code as redrafted, including all the changes approved by separate motions at this meeting, as well as any other changes from the motions at the meeting where the code was last time, as exist in the redraft present before the council at this meeting.
Alderman Wilhelm.
oops, I'm not sure what's going on there, but, is my mic on?
Yes.
Well, I guess I feel like I should probably address in my absence. I had called the clerk and I saw that the minutes were completed, and I had spoken to her. I said I had spoke very slowly, and I thought they were all captured. I thought the clerk said she had captured them all, so I apologize if I didn't get back to you. I saw that they were all drafted, and I didn't see that you had made any errors, so I didn't see a need to correct the document that you had shown it, because the minutes seemed to be right, and anything in the minutes that weren't corrected, we tried to amend. So I apologize if there was some getting back to you that I dropped the ball on. I didn't think it was necessary based on what I saw for the minutes, so.
I'm really tempted to ask for a point of personal privilege. I got to tell you, we got to move on. This one document has taken more time than the FCA versus City of Franklin trial. Can we please move on?
Yes, I am ready to move on to the one that I made the motion on. I'll let Alderman Nelson deal with the middle one, since he made the motion on that, and I was the seconder of that motion. But I believe I'm going to be okay with that one. On the last one, the Code of Conduct, Section 3,
Sorry, but there is a motion on the floor for the code of conduct being available on the website and in the office. It was made by Alderwoman Wilhelm, seconded by Alderman Hopfer, and it was not voted on.
You know, folks,
well, all we have to do is vote on it. We're okay. Yeah, just vote on it. We're good. We got a motion, and a
you
second?
can put that you want blue socks on Tuesdays too. Alderman Nelson.
Blue socks on Wednesdays.
Oh, well, we can discuss
Stand corrected.
that.
But if I wanted
Wait a
to,
minute, I got to talk to you about that.
Mr. Mayor, question, if we're going to vote on this right now, because I have a real live situation that happened regarding Section 6 tonight that I think is very, very relevant to this document moving forward. Because what I'm saying is, are we going to, before we adopt everything, because we definitely have to address that. I'll wait till my time comes, but I just want to make sure that we don't pass this whole thing before that is dealt with.
No, I'm still dealing with the motions.
On the motion to add placement of documents on websites and offices, all those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And the next one was the Code of Conduct, Section 3. Now, I would prefer to have had the red line version of the original council motion presented to us so everyone could see if they were acceptable to the original motion. We didn't get that. We got a staff adjusted one to my motion. So I would suggest in the future, we get the original one in front of us, which could have been taken from the minutes, and then had a staff write up about how it was changed, because right now we got to go back to the minutes to figure that out.
I can explain. For section 3 on page 341, on the top of that, the second line, everything
need an
from
ex-
should
I can see what
to
it is.
clerk.
I believe I had, well, I know, but I had the floor and she interrupted the floor and I didn't give up. I didn't give I didn't ask a question. I said what I would prefer. Okay.
So that entire paragraph would be gone from the beginning, should an individual council member see a deficiency, all the way up through special meetings. So that entire paragraph would be gone, and there would be 2 stray references to, in the section that talks about conduct with staff, under treating employees with professionalism, there would be just 2 notes that say council members can add items to the agenda per 19.2, Franklin Code 19.2 or 19.1B. So I'm happy to change that back.
I personally prefer the way it was originally voted on and approved by the council. And it more or less does the exact same thing, except it spells out the code 19-2 and 19-1B, which I don't really have a problem with having it very clearly spelled out. So I am going to make the motion to keep the original motion as approved at the previous meeting.
Okay. The reason we get into issues like this is we have motions like that. Which is the original motion and what did it say?
It's in the minutes.
Which minutes?
The minutes of the meeting where this was approved on,
This document's been approved twice now.
no, this was the very last one. I had
June
it-
21st?
I have it here somewhere. It's just that I've got, so here it is. Okay, here it is, right here, got the minutes. Alderwoman Wilhelm moved to delete section 3, elected officials and commission board and commission members' conduct, staff, the 5th paragraph. So I'm not deleting the whole title, don't get that wrong. I'm deleting, starting with the 5th paragraph, should an individual council, and insert the following in its place. Municipal Code 19-2, Order of Business Agenda, and then the language from that. And then Municipal Code 19-1, meeting time and date, B, special meetings, and then the code language after that. So it's exactly what the code has. If you need me to read the entire code, I can do that, but all it is changing by inserting those 2. We already have a process to put things on the agenda, and we already have a method to call special meetings. So I didn't see the need to rewrite the municipal code, just restate the municipal code, and that's why I made that motion. The date of the minutes are June 21st.
Can I just,
Absolutely.
so the only thing I would say is we reference municipal code in these documents a lot, and we don't spell out every word. We just refer it back to the code. That's the only reason the entire paragraph wasn't in there. Just wanted you to know that. And again, these 2 statements can certainly go back in there, but the code then doesn't make any sense because those are just stray references.
And if you modify, if you adjust this document, that might be okay. But if you change the code, you got to change this document. Bad business.
We're not changing the code. My motion does not change the code. In fact, it just reinstates the code and makes it very
Did you-
clear.
Alderwoman, did you hear the word "if" that came out of my mouth?
Okay. Well, didn't want you to mislead anyone.
I certainly wouldn't want to mislead people. I intentionally act so that I don't mislead people. I use short sentences so I don't mislead people. Mr. Holfer,
For the city administrator, for the online version, will it be an active link to the code
It
sections?
certainly can be.
Thank you.
I think there was a motion there. Is there a second? Is there a second? Second. Okay, on the motion, and don't ask me to read it back, don't ask the clerk to read it back, because I don't think any, okay, Madam Clerk.
Alderwoman Wilhelm moved to keep the original motion for item section, or for section 3, as approved in the June 21st, 2022 Common Council meeting minutes. Seconded by Alderman Nelson.
All right, who's gonna take a bet with me that this is gonna be back on the next agenda to be changed? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I don't know where the heck we are.
We are on Code of Section 2, which was suggested by staff, and that was Alderman Nelson. Second.
We did 2 a month and a half ago.
You did the new branch, we didn't vote on it. She just discussed it.
I can't, folks, I'm sorry, I cannot handle it. Who is the next in line for the council president? Because I cannot, I'm sorry, I have no more patience for this.
That would be Alderwoman.
Call me when you're done.
I guess any clarification. Clarification from the clerk on if we voted on the second bullet point, Code of Conduct, Section 2, when the Director of Administration was talking about changing the branch to body. Did we have a motion, or it was just discussion?
At this meeting?
Yes.
No, all the motions that have been made have been voted on, and there was no motion at this meeting on Section 2.
Okay. Alderman Nelson, that was your motion, and I didn't take that one up because I believe you were okay with the changes, and so I will let you decide what you want to do with that one. Okay, so by being good, you're stating that you would accept the changes that the Director of Administration put in to change branch to body. Is that correct? Alderman Nelson.
And I based that decision on the feedback we got from the city attorney on his input, because I guess I'm not a expert on branch versus body, so on and so forth, and we defer to the city attorney, and I also believe we defer to Madam Director of Administration, and they came to a conclusion which I believe made sense, and I don't believe we are violating any sort of state law, municipal ordinance, nothing. And if that's accurate, then I'd like to move forward with it, and that's it. That's my opinion.
Okay, Alderman Nelson has made the motion to change Section 2 in the Code of Conduct to the word branch to body, and do we have a second?
Second.
Did you want? Okay, City Attorney, we have a second to the motion. City Attorney.
Just with regard to any position that I had on that subject matter, I believe my position statement was branch body. Okay. Don't see a lot of difference legally, but branch, when was the last time you heard the application or use of the term branch in local government? Plus, it's a governmental body, so body's better, but I did not give some legal opinion on it. Just thought I'd state that.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. We have a second to change branch to body, section 2. Clerk, may you call the question or call the roll? All those in favor? Aye. And I am voting as alderman. Any opposed? Hearing no opposed, the motion carries. I think that concludes the item. Does anyone have any other items? Because I think I have one. Anyone have anything else? Wait, if you'd like to go to section 6, go right there. Alderman Nelson, you have the floor.
Excellent. So tonight, what? What? Do I have the ability to discuss section 6, page 344?
You can do as far as I'm concerned.
So I'll take that as, be discussing section 6A, attendance at commission/board/committee meetings. It says here, council members may attend any City of Franklin commission/board/committee meeting which is open to the public. So I got education tonight as I was attending the licensing committee meeting to hear and what the whole fireworks, there was something that was on the agenda regarding fireworks permitting, so on and so forth. And there was one member that was not in attendance tonight, so Alderwoman Hanneman was not there. So that's normally a commission of 3 electeds. It's on licensing. There's 3 electeds that are normally there. One was not there. So I'm not a math expert, but now we're down to 2. Add me, now we're up to 3. So apparently I could not attend that. And I will ask the city attorney to clarify that in a minute. But I guess moving forward, this is something that can be a problem because on personnel, there's 3 electeds. So that would mean that another elected couldn't come to that meeting. Okay, I've still got the floor, hold on. I know there's people jumping out of their shorts to talk on this. Finance committee meeting, there's 3. Licensing, as we know now, there's 3. St. Martin's Fair, there's 2, and that's just what I know of that. So if somebody wishes to come, and I understand that maybe we've got to put some sort of caveat in there, but I came there and was asked to leave and I couldn't participate, listen, nothing, because I violated a legalese term, which I'm sure I'm going to hear about in a minute. But I'm just wondering if that's a point that we need to add something in there that basically with these committees or commissions that already have that many electeds assigned to them, it almost prevents another elected from legally attending that meeting. And if we get some clarification on that, because I would like to attend more of these finance committee meetings, but apparently I can't.
Okay, the city clerk wants to speak, and then the city attorney. Anyone else? I can't see the
Well,
buttons.
I am going to address the license committee agenda. On the bottom of the last page of the agenda, it contains a notice that says, notice is given that a majority of the common council may attend this meeting to gather information about an agenda item over which they have decision-making responsibility. This may constitute a meeting of the common council per state XRL Badkey versus Greendale Village Board, even though the common council will not be taking formal action at this meeting. That is commonly referred to as a Badkey notice. The city attorney can explain more in detail if he wishes, but when we have knowledge that there will be a potential quorum of another body on each of the agendas, we do place what is called a Badkey notice. An example is if there was a park commission item on a common council meeting and we were aware that there would be a potential quorum of the park commission, we put a Badkey notice on the council agenda advising that there may be a potential quorum of the park commission, but they're not holding a meeting. So that's my clerk version of it. The city attorney can,
I'm going to respond to
his version.
that because this was my mistake. I didn't see the bad key notice on the front page. And so I'm the one who asked the city attorney for the opinion and said the question on the bad key notice. He gave the proper answer to Alderman Nelson, but apparently on the second page on the bottom, there was a bad key notice. And someone else pointed that out, that it was there. You could have stayed in the meeting. So my mistake. City attorney.
Thank you, Alderwoman Wilhelm, because that is the fact. And I walked into the License Committee meeting immediately at the time the subject matter I was going there for started, just after the adjournment of a Board of Water Commissioners meeting, and I did not have the License Committee agenda with me, and I was told that there was no bad key notice, and if there was no bad key notice, you can't have 3 members of the council there unless they're board and commission members. And I found out that Alderman Nelson was not a member. That was my first question. So that's what happened. Thank you.
So with that, Alderman Nelson, if, or any of the council members, if they think they might be attending, always let the clerk know and she can make sure the bad key notice is included in this case. She did include it because she knew. And so Alderman Nelson, you still have the floor.
Thank you. So I guess moving forward, let's say when we start up in these fall meetings for finance, and there's 3 assigned, and those of us that want to pay attention to our budget and expenditures and want to attend these meetings, is that something, Madam Clerk, that we should, if we attend, like Alderman Wilhelm said, that if we're going to plan on attending, we should let you know to have that notice? Because this is going to be nonstop with, there's going to, I mean, we're already at maximum at finance with 3.
City clerk.
Well, I think each of the department heads that have jurisdiction over an agenda for a board or commission really has done an excellent job for their own board and commission that they cover. I don't know that it's ever been an issue other than tonight. We have had meetings where there was no bad key and people did have to leave. But I think that the Director of Administration, the Director of Finance, when it comes to Finance Committee meeting agendas, will cover the bad key notice so that other aldermen can attend.
Thank you.
Right. I think they typically do because I've attended a few of them. Alderwoman Eichmann? Okay. Anything?
So I guess in closing, if I could have the
Alderman
floor.
Nelson?
So under this section 6A, should there be anything added in anyone's opinion, Mr. City Attorney or Madam Director of Administration or Madam Clerk, after that where it says which is open to the public, unless whatever term you just used, bad key, like bad key, or is it some sort of Greek something that came out of some law school? And
City Attorney?
In parenthesis after that, could put something akin to, provided that all open meetings laws requirements are met, including but not limited to a bad key notice, and cite the entire case name, brackets after that, close parentheses, period.
Alderman Nelson, would you like that to be your motion?
yes.
On that item? I think the city clerk is well aware of that, but I'll get you caught up on that. And is there a second to the motion we have?
You get me caught up on what?
On the writing, because you're trying to write it out. I want to make sure your shorthand got it all.
No thing, I have it all.
Okay, I figured you would. We have a second. Okay. Should I
All those in
ask you to
favor?
read back the motion, please? Okay, thank you.
She's testing my shorthand.
No, I want to be clear on
In
motions.
parentheses, it should be added to section 6, item A, following the sentence that's already in there. Parentheses, provided that all open meeting laws requirements are met, comma, including but not limited to a bad key notice, quote, and then we would cite the entire bad key notice. Closed quote, closed paren, period.
Great, great job. Okay, we have a motion and a second, and is there any more discussion on the motion? See no more discussion, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed, the motion carries. Okay. I want to give everyone up here the opportunity before I bring up the one item that I have. So is there anyone else that has any discussion? This one is on page 355, item 11, rules pertaining to the timing and submission for inclusion on council agendas and information requested for the meeting. On the third paragraph down, should a requested agenda item not be placed on the agenda as submitted, it shall be automatically placed on the next scheduled agenda unless withdrawn by the submitter. I wanted to add in here something about items for reconsideration and other timely procedural matters shall not be subject to delay. Clarification on what that means are, if you have an action that must be taken at the very next meeting, and it cannot be done any other point in time because the law says for reconsiderations, it has to be done at the very next meeting of the body. So I would not want to see someone's item delayed and then only to find out the reconsideration period has passed and now the reconsideration cannot take place. So I would insert placed on the next council agenda unless withdrawn by the submitter, and then insert right after that, items for reconsideration and other timely procedural matters shall not be subject to delay. And then proceed with the council action sheet shall contain the reason. That's my motion. Do we have anyone? Alderman Nelson. I'm right.
Second.
We have a second. Are there any discussion? City Attorney.
That again, please.
Items for reconsideration and other timely procedural matters shall not be subject to delay. It would go right after the word submitter, that period. It would be actually the third one down, the one that starts with should a requested agenda item not be placed on the agenda. And then the third line down, the word is submitter, and it would go right in there before the council action sheet wording. So basically, we're just accounting for not delaying anything that has to be a reconsideration vote. There was a second. City Attorney has
Again, what
question.
are the procedural what?
Timely procedural matters.
And that's it?
Yes, items for reconsideration and other timely procedural matters shall not be subject to delay.
How about and any other procedural matters for which the time limit or existence limit would otherwise expire. So this is the last meeting that it could go on.
That is even more clear. I would make that amendment. Direct administration.
So you said should not be delayed. I would recommend shall.
I have shall
Okay.
not. Shall not be subject to delay.
Yep.
I'm going to wait for the clerk here, and then she can read. You didn't read that, sure.
I think I can read it.
All right, direct administration.
So in the third paragraph of the rules, number 11, after the third line where it says submitter period, it would be items for reconsideration and other timely procedural matters for which a time limit may expire shall not be subject to delay.
That sounds great. City attorney.
But that doesn't clearly state that they're expiring now, so it has to go at this meeting, akin to what I said.
Oh, I
You know
thought
what
she
mean?
captured it.
Somebody, it's gonna expire in a month, and somebody's gonna make that argument, because it does have a time limit on it.
What word did you have in there?
The city clerk.
So the procedural matters for which the time limit or existence matters.
Me.
Will expire if not addressed at this meeting. Or at that meeting. Whatever.
At the following meeting? At the next?
At the
very ne-
subject
next
meeting.
At the subject meeting, okay. At the subject meeting. Okay. Is the second or the motion okay with the city attorney's amendment? That would be Alderman White. We have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor?
I would have a question.
Oh, discussion?
Is
Push
everything
it.
properly,
Push your button.
is everything been properly attributed so that when the minutes come out, it's the way you want it?
Good question.
We'll have the city
Okay.
attorney, or the city clerk read back the city attorney's changes, just for one more clarification.
So we're going to add in there items for reconsideration and other timely procedural matters for which the time limit or existence matters will expire if not addressed at the subject meeting.
Do you have shall not be subject to delay?
Shall not be subject to delay. No, well, I thought that was taken out. You want-
Yeah, I did take it out.
You took
Yeah,
it
he
out?
did take it
Okay.
out because,
And I don't think I had the word matters in there at the,
It has to,
I'm gonna
Okay,
reread.
it has
So-
to be in there.
okay, so
It has to be in there?
items for reconsideration and other timely procedural matters for which the time limit or existence will expire if not addressed at the subject meeting.
Shall not be subject to a delay.
Yeah, shall not be subject to delay.
Okay. I think we've got it.
And that was on the motion.
Yes. And seconded by Alderwoman Eichmann. Okay. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed, motion carried. Are we concluded with that? Okay.
Question,
Yes.
how do you want this presented?
Just put it in the minutes and we'll approve the minutes. And then that will be what will come out.
And so we won't see, the council will not see another copy of the rules or code?
Well, when, you can just, I don't want to keep bringing it back and keep making changes. So I would suggest the minutes get approved and then the minutes become what the document is, and then you can give us a copy of it in our boxes. City attorney.
why do the minutes need to get approved first, since the motions were adopted at this meeting? If you adopt an ordinance at a meeting, it's adopted. It
I-
does not await whether or not the minutes correctly state.
That is a valid point. So we have, yes, it's. We're done.
It won't be brought up.
Okay, city attorney?
I would ask the administrator if the administrator has any concerns about simply being complete with this, or if there should be further process with the council.
Please, no.
I actually would like to see it because we know what happens. I mean, I have 7 changes, 6 of them are motions. One of them is just to put it on the electronic version with the links. But yeah, 6 changes is a lot of changes.
So just bring it back at the next meeting.
I would feel. Actually, for my own clarification personally.
I just thought the mayor would throw a gasket. And,
If you're gonna make that many changes, it would be beneficial.
okay, so then I have a question. Are we going to get the changes exactly as the minutes, or are we going to get the changes with more changes from staff? Because I would like to see it come back as we approved it. That would be my motion. Bring it back. Yes, I'll make that motion. To bring it back, showing the changes as approved by the motions on the meeting of 7/19. A second to the motion.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? No discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing no opposed, motion carries. Okay. We are on to G13. I don't know.
The mayor wanted,
Thank you. You're up.
this is still here.
Mayor Olson has returned to the chamber. The time is 8:22, and I turn the gavel back over to the mayor. What's that?
In keeping with tradition, your time was wrong. It's 23.
Oh,
I assume we're moving to G13, is that correct? Yes, sir. Resolution to exchange change order number 1. Execute change order number 1, Carlson Roofing, $3,570.
Second.
Well, Nelson jumped all of you, so it's Nelson and Wilhelm. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to, this is review only of the sale of surplus equipment. Sir, Alderman Nelson.
For Mr. Morrow, with this auction and associates, is that a live auction where physically there's people bidding, or is this an online auction? As I know, some of these auctions are going back online. This is just a quick question, if you know.
I'm not totally certain, but I believe you can do both, online and in person.
Okay.
Well, the action sheet says through, okay. I was reading this through June 11th, but it's not.
Just a
through.
question. I yield. Thank you.
Yardman push mower, $20. Start your own business. G15, Public Policy 1-2022, a warning sign policy. Alderman Wilhelm.
is there any particular reason why we didn't just include this in the municipal code under 249-9 traffic signs and signals rather than creating a whole new policy? City Attorney?
It provides a guideline for the Department of, or for the Board of Public Works to operate under. Would be my response. City Attorney, any opine?
To the city engineers, my response on that, if this is simply a get, review, and okay of how city engineer intends to operate this particular subject matter within the Department of Public Works realm, I think he probably just brought it here. I didn't review any municipal code with regard to this. I'd ask the city engineer.
So I would say that the municipal code really just handles the location of stop signs, yield signs, and maybe a few other traffic signals. The Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices covers a whole variety of traffic control issues. These signs are non-regulatory signs. We have an attempt to declutter our streets. We've been asked for several years, like decades, to remove the child playing signs. We still put them up routinely. We get requests from residents for a variety of signs here and there. We do have guidelines for the Board of Public Works on how to place a stop sign, when they should make the decision to replace one. This gives some recommendations and guidance on how to decide when a warning sign is appropriate. So as other public policies, we brought them to Common Council for adoption of the policy so that everyone knows what the rules are, if you will. So someone wants a duck crossing sign and they complain because they didn't get their duck crossing sign, there's at least a procedure in place to know that they had a fair shake on having it heard.
Isn't that what I said 6 minutes ago? Gives the Board of Public Works a policy to work from. Is there a motion to adopt?
Second.
Hofer and Eichmann. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G16 is a request for approval to recruit and hire Director of Inspection Services in advance. This is the same as what we're doing for clerk and have done in the past for others. Questions?
Motion?
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G17, approval of event service agreement with Service Sanitation for the St. Martin's Fair restroom facilities and hand washing. John Nelson
Second.
says moved. Alderman Wilhelm seconds. Mr. City Attorney.
I had a recollection, historical recollection of what happened to this after it was approved last year, and didn't find any records thereon, checked with the clerk's office, et cetera, and I don't know that clerks ever got to that point with the final result, but last year, the motion was to adopt the motion as set forth on the council action sheet. And then to add, comma, and the potential increase in agreement cost for damage waiver fees, comma, and the potential changes in agreement terms akin to the terms of the city standard form services agreement. So the suggestion is to add that to the motion. Recollection from last year is that staff reviewed it and history in regard thereto, and there was no need for adding damage waiver fees, just in terms of how the process worked year after year after year. But I didn't come up with a clear answer on what happened, so I thought it'll be a redo this year and we'll see what happens.
Madam Clerk.
So we can include that same provision in there. The, last year, the vendor was perfectly fine with changes that we suggested. If their company is based in Indiana, this is the same company that the Civic Celebrations uses for the restroom facilities. But the last year, they were fine with suggested changes. So if we include those same changes in the motion for this year, if there's an issue, we would bring it back, but otherwise they were fine last year. So.
I'll amend my motion.
Alderman Wilhelm? You had, Alderman Wilhelm accepts the change. With the change, the additional language, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have the CAFR beginning of the meeting. We'll have the monthly financial report at the end. It's in your packet. Any questions? Is there a motion to receive and place on file?
So moved. I'll yield to.
Alderman Hope for Alderman Nelson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G19 is transfer IT equipment, capital outlay fund equipment to equipment supply funds. $8,000 from one account to another.
Second.
Nelson and Eichmann. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G20 is an ordinance to amend ordinance 2021-2486, adopting the annual budget to change that $8,000 in the budget.
So, get a vote?
Second.
Nelson and Eichmann. All those in favor?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Aye.
Madam Clerk.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichmann.
Aye.
Alderman Hopfer.
Aye.
Motion carries, 4 ayes, no noes, no absent, no abstentions. H1 licenses, Alderman Wilhelm. Hold on, you're not on yet. Okay,
License Committee for July 19th. The operator new and operator renewal for Fisher is approved, both approved with a letter. Operator new, operator renewal Murillo is approved. Operator new for Sawyer Young is approved with a letter. Fireworks permit issuance, review and recommendation related to the issuance of fireworks permits, fire chief presentation. Recommendation to the council to direct the city attorney to work with the fire chief on the process and return to the common council by the first meeting in September. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, I'm not sure it fits under the agenda item though, but there was a request for fireworks for August 18th, which the chief talked to me about, and using my authority under state law, I table it pending your conversation and then a decision of the common council as to whether we would permit 30 minutes of fireworks on August 18th for Rock Ventures.
There wasn't on the
There was
agenda.
no discussion in regards to that particular event brought up.
Okay, well, the mantle of the crown weighs heavy on the head that bears it, right? Alderman Nelson?
Okay, so I guess that was one of the things I wanted to bring forth in the meeting when I was there for my brief time. But so are you looking for the council now to make a motion? Or can we to make a motion for this? Because this is kind of a big deal.
Since the city attorney is waggling his finger, the answer to that's probably going to be no, but Mr. City Attorney.
The authority for the issuance of permits remains with the fire chief pursuant to the municipal code. And that subject matter is not on this agenda, so you can't act on it.
Okay, so we move on.
Well, it was on the licensing committee. Permits in general.
You're not-
I took that as a
hold on, one at a time, and Alderman Nelson's got the floor.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I guess if we can't discuss it because it's not on the agenda, so then does that mean it gets kicked back to just the chief, Mr. City Attorney?
I thought on this subject of review by the city attorney with the fire chief to bring back to the council, I thought what I heard was that any of those items, firework items, sometimes he submits them to license committee and council after he's already issued the permit. And the committee members, wondering if you recall hearing that. So it sounds as if that permit would have already been issued.
I will yield
Alderman
for
Will.
some clarification.
Except it's my understanding that, from an email from Mayor Olson, that he asked the fire chief to hold up on issuing this particular one. So the mayor would have still the authority to approve that fireworks permit under the current process. This would be a process going forward after the city attorney had an opportunity to put a procedure together with the fire.
Here's the, let me help a little bit maybe. Here's the issue. The request from the applicant is 30 minutes of fireworks on top of another. The city attorney, it's the way it's going to be.
Well, you've been advised.
Thank you. And there's discussion as to whether 30 minutes is appropriate for the type of use it was, or is, or will be. The chief expressed to me the fact that there is no criteria for him to not issue a permit under my, understand that the state law says I'm responsible and I can delegate. And delegated to police chief. Or fire chief, you can reverse that delegate. So I said, we got to talk about this because there's no policy. We do fireworks for birthday parties, gender reveal parties. How long can you do it for a gender reveal party? Can you do an hour as long of fireworks for a gender reveal party? How about grand openings for businesses? So all of those need to be discussed and brought here for a policy decision. And size of location, traffic control, all of that. There's an application that merely says 30 minutes of fireworks with very little supporting documents. No traffic control, no crowd control, no restrooms, because as we all know, when you do a long period of fireworks, people have a tendency to show up, right? And you got to take care of them. None of that's on this plan, so, and this is for August 18th, so I'll work with the applicant. Alderman Nelson still had to.
Okay, I guess, Mayor, you just did cover that last snippet where you said you'll work with the applicant. That I just caught, you just said that, so you're going to continue, because I mean, this is going to be a big deal. Obviously, it's my district. There's a big grand opening of a business. It's a huge deal for the city, and I just definitely, I know there's a big planning part on their end, costs out of pocket that have to get this thing rolling. So if we do have to even have a special meeting to address it, I'm up for that unless you want to take the ball, but definitely I want to get this thing rolling in a positive manner. I yield.
This would be a question for the city clerk. Would they need a special event permit? That would come to the license anyway, and that would then address those parking issues, just like staff always does with any event, regardless if fireworks are there or not. So what I'm saying is the mayor would deal with the fireworks issue with the chief, fire chief, and then the licensing committee would have the event as usual. Would that be correct assumption or not?
Madam Clerk.
That is a correct assumption, but I do want to add that they did apply, so we circulate the application for comments from department heads and elected officials, and then we would put it on a subsequent meeting agenda when all the comments have returned. But yes, they did timely apply for a special event license, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't know the PDD for that, but I believe that that was a requirement that fireworks be applied for, whereas there may be some other locations where there's not a requirement to apply for them as a special event license. So they're handled a little bit different, I believe, because of the PDD. But we can check into that with planning before it comes to the License Committee and Common Council.
Great. Thank you, that answered my question.
Anybody else?
I took you.
Anybody else? Okay. Alderman?
Returning, operator new Balistreri is approved, operator new Caldwell is approved, operator new Folo is approved, operator new Klein approved, operator new Molina. Hold for appearance and an update on the background check prior to returning to the committee. Operator new Reitmeyer is approved, operator new Steckel is approved. Operator new Toman is approved. Operator new Hushik is approved. Operator new Kais is approved. And temporary Class B beer and temporary entertainment and amusement for the VW Post, St. Martin's Library Fair is approved. Time is adjourned at 6:20. And I
there a
sold
second?
my VW too, so.
Second by Alderman Eichman. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Move to I. I say it's I1 because you don't have a 1 unless you have a 2, so it's item I. Is there a motion approving the city vouchers with an ending date of July 14th, 2022, the amount of $1,335,484.96, and payroll dated July 15th in the amount of $441,296.31, and payments of the various payroll deductions in the amount of $233,597.95 plus city matching payments, and estimated payroll for July 29th of $435,000, and payments of the various payroll deductions estimated at $540,000 plus city matching payments.
Motion.
To approve.
Second.
I think you did first. Eichman and Holfer. Madam Clerk.
Alderman Hopefer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Wilhelm.
Aye.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Motion carries 4 ayes, no noes, 2 absent, no abstentions. That concludes the broadcast portion of this program. We're going to go into closed session in a moment, and at that time, we will stop the playback via YouTube. Is there a motion to enter closed session pursuant to Wisconsin 19.85 sub 1 sub G to confer with legal counsel? The Common Council is rendering advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to the subject litigation, re-enter open session at the same place thereafter to act on such matters as discussed
Make that motion.
in closed session. I would expect that we'll go back onto streaming after this. It's been moved by Alderman Wilhelm. Is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Holford. Madam Clerk.
Alderman Nelson.
Aye.
Alderwoman Wilhelm.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Hopefer.
Aye.
4 ayes, no noes, 2 absent, no abstentions. We are in closed session.
Take 5 minutes, sir.
Yes.
Recording stopped. At 10 minutes to 9.
To a motion that the city of Franklin remain within the settlement class, but shall file an objection that the scope of the settlement release is overbroad covering PCB contamination not only in waterways and sewage systems, but all claims, including non-water-based claims, and non-water-based claims should be removed from the settlement release. The Office of the City Attorney is authorized to take any action necessary with regard to the foregoing.
Wilhelm and Eichmann, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn? Wilhelm and Holfer, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.